All right, we're just going to get off and running right away. Welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show with a little bit of breaking news about Za'Darius Smith. So we'll bring Eric here in just a few moments, but article just busted here by USA Today moments ago. Now, he was spotted at the 2025 BET Awards where he stated, quote, "We both know where I want to be. Hopefully, I can get back to Detroit because the coaching staff and everybody in the front office are great. When I am there, I feel like a leader and like I can influence the young guys and do great things. Hopefully, I can get back to where I want to be in Detroit." So, that's phenomenal news, right? Maybe not for some of the players on the depth chart, but that's phenomenal news that Za'Darius Smith still wants to be back. As I've been reporting now for several months, that we know that the Za'Darius Smith thing is likely to happen as long as there's room and he doesn't get picked up by somebody else. But I've also said he hasn't signed with somebody just yet because, very simply, he wants to be back in Detroit. And as Brad Holmes stated, there's open communication with Detroit Lions and the agent. At least right now, it's more of communication that if something happens, when or if something happens with Za'Darius Smith, they will let the Lions know. And at that point, the Lions either have to make a decision on bringing Za'Darius Smith back or not. But even as early as or as late as the BET Awards, Za'Darius Smith wants to be back in Detroit. Now let's get Eric in here this morning. Eric, good morning, man. Just broke the news there about Za'Darius Smith making comments at the BET Awards, talking about wanting to be back in Detroit. So did you get a chance to review this? And I guess, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I did. And it's, hey, everybody that is a Lions fan wants to know what it would be like to have Za'Darius Smith matched up against on the other side with Aiden Hutchinson healthy. You know, everybody wanted to know what that combo would be like, especially with Za'Darius putting up, what did he put up? 4 sacks, 40 pressures, you know, put that next to Aiden Hutchinson, who put up a crap load of sacks and a bunch of pressures. It could be something special. So to have him back, and what I was reading, he's chasing a Super Bowl, and he knows that Detroit is his best chance at a Super Bowl. He said that he had gotten the Pro Bowl. He's been the sack leader. He's done all this other stuff, you know, been an All-Pro. He's done everything in his career at some point. The only thing he doesn't have for that trophy case is a Super Bowl. And you know he wants one in Detroit because he had a Super Bowl ring made.
Yeah. No, I think it's good to think about the what ifs, right? And I also believe that Za'Darius Smith would still provide the Lions another starter. And I know a lot of Lions fans don't have confidence in Marcus Davenport. I do. I always have. I watched what he did last year at the early part of the season. I know you were big on Davenport too, when healthy, right? That's the key. But you could say that about anybody, right? When healthy. Now, if you were to put Za'Darius Smith, into this situation, how do you utilize him at 33 years old? Is he going to be the big end? Is he going to be the speed end? He's not really a big end. I guess he'd be more of a speed end. However, I think having options is great, but when looking at this depth chart, man, apparently it's time to wake up. Hold on here. What's going on?
Don't forget.
What's going on? I don't know why there's an alarm going off.
Probably 8:30 showtime.
Well, hold on. Take it away for just a moment.
Yeah, so somebody has audio but a black screen. Is that for everybody? I'm seeing it just fine on YouTube. Attila the Hun, my heart dropped. I thought they had announced he finally signed. No, and I think that's what a lot of Lions fans want. And I think right now it's just a money issue. The Lions have to resolve things with Alex Anzalone, and until that's resolved, that I don't think they can really do anything with Za'Darius Smith. And that's just my opinion, that they're going to need to get things settled with the players they already have first before they go trying to get someone else. And I don't know what the holdup is other than that they need to get their money situation and their ducks in a row. Yes, and my
One
My
sec.
beard did grow a foot while I was gone. That's what it does when you go fishing for a week and a half. Caught the biggest fish of my life down there. Oh, thanks, Cake Man. Yeah,
Okay, so I
that's
missed all of that, but that was my other phone. So I thought that I had this thing turned off. And I'm looking around like, where's this alarm coming from? I don't have an alarm on. So I heard two things out of that. One about the black screen. You guys got to give transitions a little bit of time. Like when we go through transitions in the morning or throughout the show, it takes 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 seconds. It just depends on where we're at in the show. So just be patient with it for just a moment. Talking about Za'Darius Smith though, the biggest thing for me is obviously it's money. You were talking about the money thing. Like they have to resolve, the money issue, and then they still have to think about what are they going to do for Aiden Hutchinson. Here's the biggest question. And what? Anzalone.
And Anzalone,
yeah, so who's more important, Anzalone or Za'Darius Smith?
Anzalone all day.
Right. And Za'Darius Smith wanted, he was going to get paid $16 million for one season. It was 11 this year and 5.25 next year. So there's no way they can afford to do that and still try to get something done with Alex and all of the other players that they need to extend. I would assume that if he wanted to come back and play for half that, it probably would have been done by now. Yeah. And chasing a Super Bowl, I think that's exactly where he's at in life. It's kind of what I said at the end of the season once we learned of the contract situation, that this was going to come down to money, and it was also going to come down to Za'Darius wanting to play for a contender. And I think that's all he's waiting for. It's contender shopping. Who suffers an injury, he's going to stay available. Eric, I don't know if you remember, but a couple months ago I said Z's not going to sign with anyone. He's going to wait until after training camp. And if there's injuries that get suffered on a contender team, he's probably going to sign. Or maybe he'll wait out a little bit longer and stay healthy throughout the entire season. Maybe come back, after the first quarter or 5th, 6th, 7th game, and then get running, at least stay healthy so he can help a team in the end. Because I think that's where he's going to be able to get the most money and play less, right? Keep his body young in what could be the last couple of seasons of his career. So any final comments here on Za'Darius Smith?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a waiting game no matter what. You have too many ducks to get in a row financially. And even though the Lions have 42 million in their piggy bank, they have to be careful with it. They can't just go spending it all willy-nilly. Now, would I love to see a rotation with Za'Darius Smith, Hassanin, Davenport, and Hutch? Oh, yeah. That sounds like a lot of fun to me. That sounds like one of the better defensive end rooms in all of the NFL.
And to your point, though, it may not be the big, bright, shiny, 50-cent piece that you're trotting out there that's getting paid $35 million like Trey Hendrickson or, it may not be that. But what it is it's experience. It's guys that know how to play. It's guys that can play together. And it's guys that can produce. I don't care if you're making $1. If you're producing the best, that's all that matters. And I think that a lot of fans look at this from, nope, it has to be the highest paid guy. It has to be the biggest name. Those aren't the guys that produce. Look at Van Ginkel last year. And we're going to be talking about the Minnesota Vikings here in just a minute. Look at Van Ginkel. Look at what he did. Last season racked up, 12 sacks or something like that? I don't remember. But he's not the highest paid guy. He was making, 10, 11 million. And he comes out and has a crazy good year. Would have loved to have had somebody like that on the roster. A little lesser known player that is put into a good situation. I think and I'm going to ask you this, is it more about the situation that you're joining? Or is it more about you independently that you're going to elevate the situation that you're joining? Me, I think it's twofold. I'd like to get your answer. So is it more important to join a really good situation, or is it more important that you're going to make a situation better?
I think it's the first one. I think he wants the ultimate situation to come in and win a Super Bowl. He doesn't want to have to be the guy, but he thinks he can help. I think he knows that he's no longer the all-pro sack leader, and he knows that. But he knows he's good enough to help a team win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would say so too. He's amassed 333 tackles, 69 sacks, 173 quarterback hits, 140 career regular season games. He's done it at 32 years old. He's wanting to play one more season at least, and he wants to play for a contender, and that's the Detroit Lions. Let's move into another name. But before we do, Eric, give us a 60-second breakdown of the last week and a half for you.
Yeah. Well, I went fishing up in Canada. It was amazing. Hiked more than I've ever hiked in my life. Beat my feet up and saw some amazing things, caught some amazing fish. While I was gone, I had a couple of videos go absolutely viral on my Facebooks. And so my business is super, super busy now that I'm home, and did a lot on social media while I was gone. I programmed it to do 3 videos a day on both of my Facebook pages, and they just went absolutely nuts, and it's awesome. So back in February on my YOOPERLITES page, I had 30,000 followers. Now I have 130,000 followers. I've gained 41,000 followers this month alone, and just incredible growth on the social media stuff right now. It's pretty awesome.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. Mark Wahlberg. I'm gonna bring this in. Did you get a chance to see this?
Yeah, I watched all the videos that you put in.
Okay. So I had this problem yesterday when we lost power. I had to rebuild a lot of things again. And I don't know why that happens, but let me see if I can get this dialed up real quick. So Mark Wahlberg, I thought that this was a great video. So he was doing a benefit yesterday. I can't remember exactly which benefit it was.
I think it was a golf tournament.
It was a golf tournament, but I can't remember which benefit it was, but it was local. It was at the Detroit Golf Club. Phenomenal place. I know that not a lot of people can go there, but if you've ever get an opportunity to go to the Detroit Golf Club, it is incredible. You talk about old school and just that old school vibe, man. I love it. So let me try to get this in here. He talks about his favorite second team. And I just thought it was interesting, some of the things that he was saying. Oh, it's not in there. There we go. All right, let's bring in Mark Wahlberg. Let's listen to what this guy had to say about the Detroit Lions. And I guess I was taken aback a little bit. Like, I had no idea that he was this fond of Detroit or Michigan or the Detroit Lions. Here we go.
Mark, could you ever have imagined when you signed on to be in a Michael Bay movie, Transformers, shot here in Michigan, that your roots would be planted so truly in our town and the impact would be felt like this?
No, I didn't. But, look, it's a small world, right? You travel a long way to meet great people and then connect with other people that we knew, and really it's come full circle. It's like being a second home. Wish I had more time to spend here, and I wish I was making another movie here so I could, spend 4 months, especially this time of year, as we know is ideal. But, the only thing I do feel bad about is our Lions didn't do what I predicted last year. Got close, had an amazing...
Our Lions. If you didn't catch that, he said our Lions.
Regular season, but big expectations for this year.
Okay, you say our Lions, which I think a lot of people love. I know that's your NFC team because your AFC
Brad
team
Golly
is
looking fit.
publicly the Patriots.
Yep.
What are your expectations for this group? We got Mia Hutchinson, Aiden Hutchinson's sister, singing the national anthem. What's the prediction for the Lions?
They're definitely going to win the division. I want them to go all the way. The city needs it. I have a lot of friends, and their kids especially were in tears, after that Washington game. I also have an affinity for the Eagles. I played an Eagle. That's a serious connection for me there. But I don't know. I just fell in love with the Lions, and I fell in love with the blue collar mentality here in Michigan. So hopefully they go all the way.
If there is a movie made about the Lions, Jay, who we cast in Marquez? Are you tall enough to be Dan Campbell eventually? Who could you be in the Lions movie?
You know what? Actually,
The height questions.
It's unrealistic that I would play a player, so why not play the coach? That would be amazing.
You like that?
Yeah, they can't measure you on film. You know, when you're on the big screen, you look 10 feet tall anyway, right? James Cagney always said, you know, I'm the 6'4" giant when we're on the screen. You know, he would say that to all the other taller actors, and he was a force of nature. So what an amazing coach. That would be an amazing part.
I appreciate everything you got.
All right. Do we want to see Mark Wahlberg playing Dan Campbell? I like his attitude there that, you know, he's talking about the height. I don't know if Brad was trolling him a little bit on the height, but I don't know if Mark was trolling us a little bit on, hey, there were some kids crying after the Commanders game. I think this was a genuine take. I think he likes the Detroit Lions. I think that this was a good look. I mean, was it just because he was part of a benefit that was in Detroit? I don't know, but I love it. What did you take from it, Eric?
I liked it a lot. You know, to have someone like him that, you know, he played in the Eagles movie and he's a diehard Patriots fan, to say that now his second team is the Lions was pretty cool. And I like the fact that he was talking about, hey, what if there's a movie, you know, who would play Dan Campbell, or who would you play in the movie? And he could play Dan Campbell, but he'd have to bulk up and maybe get some stilts or something, because Dan Campbell is a huge person.
Well, we know we know the power of framing and you know, they can do anything with a video camera these days. And he was looking a little bit less bulky than he has in the past, but yeah. keep on going there. What are your final thoughts on Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah, I heck, a Detroit Lions movie would be awesome. You could do Ryan Gosling as Jared Goff.
We've seen that before. That would be perfect. That
wouldn't
would
that
be
be
perfect.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Are they going to do a Detroit Lions movie? Who knows? But if they did, I don't know if I see Mark Wahlberg. I could see Mark Wahlberg being the Ben Johnson. Like I could see him in that role, just a fiery little man. And I don't mean little like by height, but, you know, just, you know, smaller guy running up and down the sideline. I could see him being a good Ben Johnson. I'm not sure who I'd want to see as a Dan Campbell. Like, I've really never thought about it. I want to see a movie about the Lions, though. So to Hollywood, I mean, get your crap together, man. Like, I think it's time. I think we need to win a Super Bowl first. And if we do, we better see a movie about the Detroit Lions. I think it'd be great. But overall, I was a little, like I said, taken aback that Mark Wahlberg said that the Lions were his second team. He's got 3 teams, right? He played, what was that, unlikely walk-on for the Eagles. I can't even remember the name of the movie now. And his team is the Patriots. We know that. It's the Patriots. So interesting to say the least. Speaking about NFC North, he says that the Lions are going to win the NFC North, and I guess now I'd like to transition to, well, Emmanuel Acho and some conversation about JJ McCarthy. So I want to dig into that, and I want to kind of flush out this. Can you trust JJ McCarthy? What's he walking into? But before we do that, Eric, take it away on Jaire Alexander. I had a video all put together for yesterday. Didn't get to release it, but maybe I'll put it out later on today. Talk to us about Jaire Alexander and why the Packers releasing him. I mean, it could have an impact on the Lions. It may not, but walk us into this one.
Yeah, well, on Monday, the Green Bay Packers decided saving $17.1 million was worth the cost of not having Jaire Alexander anymore. In the past 2 seasons, he's only played in 7 games per season. You know, that's 14 total games in 2 seasons. So he hasn't even played a full season worth of games in 2 years. And then to add that on top of that, you know, everyone knows he has an attitude. And he's a problem in the locker room. He's a problem for coaches. And to me, it's just a player I would never want to see come to Detroit. He's just not a Dan Campbell type of guy, to me anyway. And where does it make sense for him to go? All right. Well, I found this article that says, do the Minnesota Vikings make the most sense for Jaire Alexander? And that might be the type of team where he does actually fit in the NFC North. Um, Mike Florio talked about how the Minnesota Vikings make the most sense for Jaire Alexander in free agency. And this is a quote by him. "Someone else will pounce on the defensive back whose skills are undeniable," Florio wrote. "Now that he is a free agent, and given that he might have some hard feelings for the team that drafted him in 2018 and cut him on Monday, he could be inclined to join one of Green Bay's division rivals." So what would you think about Jaire Alexander joining the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that's a move that will happen. I would say that the fact that the Packers are giving up $17 million to let him walk and not try to resurrect any sort of a relationship and keep this guy on the field, I'm not going to give away too much of what I put in my video, but it's this simple to me. He hasn't stayed healthy in the last 2 seasons. He had an all-pro season in 2022, and since then hasn't stayed healthy at all. And I think that's the biggest problem. And not only that, but to your point, the attitude. His attitude is infectious in the wrong way. And that is a problem, I think, for him to become a Detroit Lion. So for all of the clickbaiters out there that are saying that, hey, does it make sense for Jaire Alexander to come to Detroit? Or, look, is it a conversation like we're having where it's to say there's too much riding on this season to bring in a virus that Jaire Alexander has been someone that also has not been healthy the last couple seasons? I don't think it makes sense. But furthermore, let's talk health. If you're willing to bring in Jaire Alexander, I don't want to hear one peep about Marcus Davenport.
Yeah.
Sure, Jaire has had an incredible season or two in his career, but he hasn't been healthy. And he's a virus in the locker room. So if you want this type of an individual on the team, I don't want to hear a damn lick of a word about Marcus Davenport. Furthermore, I'll just say this. I think he's going to end up going to a team for less than $6 million for one season on a prove-it deal. And the reason why that number $6 million sticks out to me is because he's going to get paid about, I don't know, 3.5, or 17 plus million this year. He's going to lose a couple million. And I think that's all he's going to look to make up for it in one deal, 1 year deal. After that, if he can stay healthy and play, well, maybe he'll pick up another contract. But going to the Vikings, this is where it makes sense. They've been talking about this Super Bowl window for the Detroit Lions. Well, what about a Super Bowl window for the Vikings? We've seen what they were able to do last season. Does this mean that if you were to add somebody that could be a fairly locked down corner in his prime when he's having his best day at the office, that would help them get over the hump and help JJ McCarthy? Because I think that's the issue here, is you have to help JJ McCarthy. And you're helping him on the defensive side of the football by giving him more opportunities. So for me, Jaire going to the Minnesota Vikings only makes sense because of what we're going to talk about next, which is, are the Vikings putting too much faith into JJ McCarthy? And do they legit have a Super Bowl window that's open right now? But without getting too deep into it, Eric, 15 seconds or less, what would be your answer to too much stock in JJ? Do they have a Super Bowl window?
Well, according to social media, JJ is the second coming of Tom Brady. If you saw the one play that they showed of him threading the needle and throwing the ball to, I think it was Addison, for a touchdown in the corner of the end zone, you would think that JJ is the best quarterback to ever play the game because of one play in an OTA. And that's all you saw. You didn't see any incompletions. You didn't see anything else. All you saw was one highlight. So to me, I think he's getting a little overhyped. He was not the best quarterback in college. He was very dependent on the run game. And 2, he missed his entire rookie season due to injury.
Absolutely.
The whole entire thing. So you have a year of rust to get rid of. So I just don't see it. That's the one thing where I think that could fail for the Vikings, and not everybody is going to come out and be Jaden Daniels or CJ Stroud in year one. It just doesn't happen. That's twice in 100 years of the NFL.
Yeah, so I agree with that. But let's dive into this, and I'm going to bring in a video of Emmanuel Acho on the faculty, or is it the faculty? Yeah, the faculty, I believe is what they call their podcast. Who knows if it's going to get hit with copyright, but I want to bring it in and talk about it because they make some really good points. So it'll be about 7 minutes and we're going to break up. We're going to talk about it in between. And my goal is to really expose JJ McCarthy here. Now, I know that there's a lot of Michigan fans that watch this channel. We are now talking about the NFL. Okay. So let's separate our Saturdays from Sundays. This has nothing to do with the U of M. This has everything to do with the Minnesota Vikings. Before I do that, I got to shout out a couple of people in the chat. Matt Hick says the movie was Invincible. I remember that now, Invincible. So thank you for helping me with that this morning. Nick P says, Dan Campbell mentioned having a pet lion on the sideline again. I haven't heard that. That's interesting. And I guess do me a favor. Put it in the chat. Put it in the comments later. Who would you want Dan Campbell to be played as? What actor in Hollywood do you want Dan Campbell to be represented by? Maybe Dan Campbell does it himself. That's a lot of commitment. I doubt it, but there's a couple other things in the chat here.
Yeah.
The Rock. The Rock or John Cena as Dan Campbell. John Cena's short too, though, isn't he? Isn't he like 5'9"?
Yeah.
I think he is.
He's bigger. He's a bulkier dude, though.
Yeah. Nick B wanted to point out that Cooper DeJean is also doing the same thing as Brian Branch, moving to safety this year. That'll be interesting. So that was Cooper played corner last year, if I'm not mistaken. He was down in the nickel, if I'm not mistaken there. I can't remember how many snaps he played, or played in that position. There's a couple other things in here I wanted to shout out real quick. If I can find it.
Yeah. And I will say this right now. There's a bunch of people standing up for JJ McCarthy in the chat here.
Yeah.
Especially Michael Garrity and stuff. Don't sleep on JJ. I'm telling you right now, I'm not sleeping on JJ, but I guarantee right now on this podcast, right now today, June 10th, 2025, JJ McCarthy will not be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL this season.
He won't even be top 15.
Nope. He will not be top 10.
You know what? I'll come back to the chat in a moment. Let's just dig into it. Michael Garrity wants to get spicy. We'll get spicy this morning. Good morning, Michael Garrity. Let's get spicy about it. Let's have some fun with it. So let's just talk about it. Here we go. Oh, that is tough. That is tough indeed. And you weren't even that good at Michigan. Acho just made that statement about Minnesota Vikings quarterback JJ McCarthy. True or untrue? Eric, true or untrue? Was JJ McCarthy not that good at the U of M? This is a 10-second answer. True or untrue?
Well, I don't believe JJ was the second coming of anyone. I think he's an average quarterback. I don't think he is this be all end all that all the Michigan fans want him to be.
I would agree. What ornery U of M dad? I don't know what you mean there. What's a Pinto? What are we talking about? What's a Pinto?
A car. Yeah.
Well, how did we get on the conversations of a car?
Yeah, because you asked if they're a Ferrari, and I say no.
Oh, I got you. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they're a Pinto.
I thought I put it into a Q&A. I guess I didn't. I guess I just linked it. I got you now. They're a Pinto. Yeah, that's funny. They're a Dodge Duster. They're a Duster. Or whatever that was. Was it a Pontiac Duster? I can't remember. All right, so JJ McCarthy. Now, you just heard what Emmanuel Acho said, and let me just kind of highlight it for just a moment. Number one, the Vikings appear to have no weaknesses on the roster. Coming off of one of the best seasons all time, the question, remains like how good can the Vikings be, and will this JJ McCarthy taking over the helm, if you will, be a problem. So JJ McCarthy drafted 10th overall in the first round last year. Significant investment that suggests the Vikings see him as a franchise quarterback. Now, historically, and I've gone over this many times, historically, there's only been 13 rookie first-round quarterbacks that have ever made the playoffs since 2000. 24 seasons. Only 13 rookie quarterbacks have made the playoffs. Let that sink in for just a moment. So, rookie first-round quarterbacks often start by week 3. Not all of them start the beginning of the season, but they usually start by week 3. And that gives them an opportunity to have some playing time, right? To have an opportunity to grow in their first season. And they usually start on bad teams. So you're not expecting them to win. This isn't the case for the Vikings. The Vikings roster, it's strong, right? It's featuring key players like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, a beefed up offensive line, veteran tight end TJ Hawkinson. And I'm not even going to say that Kevin O'Connell is coach of the year. I think that we all know that it was Dan Campbell. So, Eric, you look frozen, buddy.
I do?
Yeah, you are completely frozen.
I wonder what happened there.
So I guess my first question is, I guess that would be a good thumbnail pick.
Yeah, there you go.
I guess my first question is, the Vikings appear to have no weaknesses if you believe in the hype train here. And coming off of one of the best seasons of all time, not just for the Vikings, but all time. 14-3 is hard to do. Here's my first question to everybody in the chat, the comments, and you, Eric. Is the pressure too high for JJ McCarthy, or can this roster drag him through the season and prop him up on a pedestal just like U of M did?
All right. I have to address something that no one addressed. Not you, not the people on that show. No one has addressed this yet. Why did the Vikings win 14 games last year? Well, they played a third place schedule because of the year before. They finished in third place. So they played 3 teams from the NFC that were all third place teams the year before. They won all 3 of those games. They played the NFC or the AFC South just like we did. They won all of, some of those games. The only team that they lost to twice was the Lions, and I can't remember who their other loss was to. But when you play a third place schedule, not a first place schedule, the Lions played a first place schedule and went 15-2. The Vikings played a third place schedule and went 14-3. I think they had a much, much easier schedule than the Lions did. And that is one of the main factors why they did so good last year, because the teams that they were playing just weren't all that great.
It's a good point. It's a valid, very, very valid point. Anything else you want to add to that? Or no, are you good? You good with that?
Because I'm good with that.
Then I'm going to give you my answer. So, and while I'm giving this answer, if you want to try to drop out and come back and see if we can get you...
Sure, I can do that.
Unstuck. Okay, so here's my point. Look, the Vikings roster, like I pointed out earlier, it's been described as a Ferrari because they have, powerful, fast wide receivers. They've kind of had a little bit of a mixed running back room over the last couple of seasons. Strong offensive lineup. A defense that generated 33 turnovers, highlighted by Acho there. And a team that is well equipped to support a young quarterback. So I understand all of that. Not the case for Jared Goff when he came into Detroit, right? He had no supporting cast. None. And so we're talking vastly different opportunities here. The question still remains, though, whether McCarthy can handle the responsibility of driving this high performance vehicle. You guys have seen the TikToks and the YouTube shorts and all of the other videos out there that these teens get, keys to these very powerful, engines in these vehicles that they get, by their wealthy parents. They get handed a Ferrari or a Porsche or something, right? And within a few minutes, that vehicle's typically wrapped around a mailbox or something. And I think that's going to be JJ McCarthy's first season. I think he's going to wrap this Ferrari around a telephone pole. And that's just, figuratively here, right? I'm not hoping that anyone gets hurt, but figuratively here, I think that that's what's going to happen to JJ McCarthy's first season. I think it's going to be an epic car crash. And yeah, is it unfortunate to misuse this franchise and the type of the type of players that they have? Yeah, I would say so. But that still doesn't remove the fact that McCarthy is stepping into a situation where expectations are high, right? The Vikings are not just looking to compete. They're aiming for a Super Bowl run. They believe that this door is open. Vikings fans believe that this door is open because of what Sam Darnold did last year. And we'll talk about Sam Darnold for just a minute too, but this shift in expectations, I think, can weigh heavily on a young quarterback, especially one who has not played a snap in the NFL. So, Eric, my second kind of question, or really my second question for this would be, while the Vikings have this talented roster, the pressure on McCarthy is clearly going to be immense. Unlike Darnold, though, who played with house money, walking into the same situation that McCarthy's walking into, which is a roster loaded. They did one thing last year. To your point, they had a bad schedule. But they did one thing last year that was different than what they did this year. They added to that defense, and they made one of the scariest linebacker rooms in the NFL. Big-time defense. It really helped Sam Darnold to have more opportunities. And you give a quarterback more opportunities, if they're a decent quarterback, they're going to score points. This is JJ McCarthy we're talking about. This is a guy that depended on Blake Corum to run the football. I don't care how big of a fan you are of U of M. Remember, we're separating this here. But I got to point to one fact that will always remain true. In fourth quarters of 2023 season at U of M, they did not ask JJ McCarthy to throw the football to win the football game. They handed it off to Blake Corum. That should tell you something. They didn't trust his arm. Yeah, did he make some good throws? Every quarterback does. Matter of fact, just last week, the Vikings are highlighting JJ McCarthy, and all the U of M fans that are also fans of the Vikings are running to social media with their thumbs and saying, oh my God, JJ McCarthy's elite. Did you just see that pass in the corner of the end zone? No pads, right? No defense, no pass rush. I could have made that throw. And I'm broken at 44 years old, but I could have made that throw. You think I'm lying? I could have done it. Playing with house money last season. What do I mean by that? So Sam Darnold walks into a situation where he has an amazing offense. Was it Aaron Jones went to the Vikings last year, right? It was Aaron Jones? Oh, shoot. I don't have volume from you for some reason. Are you muted? You're not muted? Here. I got no audio. I got no audio from anybody. Yeah, you're probably going to have to jump back out and jump back in again. Yeah, you're not muted on my side either. Okay, so I guess let me answer the question here. You've got unrealistic expectations that I think are being placed on JJ McCarthy. And Sam Darnold walks into a situation where he had experience. That's the difference here. Sam had plenty of experience. Yeah, he didn't have a great career, but there is an invaluable amount of experience on Sam Darnold's side. I don't care how bad your career has been. Sam Darnold was also not put in good situations. He was never given an offense like he had in Minnesota last year. And he was able to take advantage of it. That is the difference between JJ McCarthy and Sam Darnold. Experience. All right, let's see if you're good to go now. Audio?
Yeah, I'm here.
There we go. All right. So, with all that said, my question is this. Is JJ McCarthy playing with Sam Darnold money too? Meaning that he's coming off the backs of what Sam Darnold did last year. I almost wanted to call him Sam McDarnold. He's coming off the back of Sam Darnold in what he was able to do last season. How much more pressure does that add for a quarterback that had a terrible career, was not given an offense to perform in, joins the Vikings and just blows it out the water? I mean, great season. I said it from the beginning of last year. You remember this. I said that Sam Darnold's going to have a great season. I trust in his arm. I trust in his experience and his ability. And he did exactly what I expected. Maybe a little bit more. I didn't see 14 wins, but I expected them to have a good season. This is JJ McCarthy. To Acho's point, no preseason last year, or no look teams, right? No practice squad. Didn't get any snaps that were, relevant to his career today. This is his first year going through everything. How much pressure does this add to JJ McCarthy? You hear me, or
What's that?
I said, how much pressure does it add to JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, it's huge. The guy has never had to be the guy ever. And I'm reading all these comments, like Brent saying JJ still beat out Sam Darnold in camp last year to be the starter. Where did you see that? I never saw that.
Well, hold on. We'll never know that though, because hold on. JJ was hurt before that. Was he not?
He got hurt in the preseason.
Okay.
I think he played in 1 or 2 games, but he wasn't the starter in the preseason.
No, he never started the game. Sam was the starter.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't. We can't say that. That's like saying Hendon Hooker beat out Jared Goff last year in camp.
That's like Nick P says JJ has more arm talent than Darnold, but inexperienced. How do you know that? Did he light it up in college? Sam Darnold did. Didn't Sam Darnold win the Heisman?
I don't know about that, but I do know this.
He was up for it.
There is no comparison in arm talent between JJ and Darnold. Darnold is way better. His arm is way more fluid. It's a hot arm. McCarthy does not have. He doesn't have a speed ball, if you will. He can't launch the ball deep. We're talking a college ball and now an NFL ball, right? Big difference. Big difference being able to get that ball downfield with, Ferraris literally running after you now on the defense. So continue on with your statement there.
I don't know how he's going to do. He might do great. He might not do great. But in my opinion, he will not be a top 10 quarterback this year. It's just not going to happen. He is not going to have a Jaden Daniels year. He's not going to have a CJ Stroud year. That is so uncommon. It usually takes about 3 years of starting for a quarterback to really grasp the system and to be good. Last year, when they thought, before Sam Darnold was named the starter, when they thought it was going to be JJ McCarthy, all the betting odds had the Vikings at 7 wins for last year. Their over-under was 7 wins for a reason. The year previous, they were a 7-win team, and they just didn't know what was going to happen at quarterback. No one knew that Sam Darnold had any of that in him.
Hey, Eric, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but can you do me a huge favor? Sure. I don't know what your gain is at, but can you drop it 15? Because you are way distorted, which means your gain is way high.
Okay, let me see here.
I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I'm listening to it on the YouTube side just to double check, and it's all poppily crackly.
Gotta get back here.
So while you're doing that, let me just run through a couple things. So you pointed out the Heisman about Sam Darnold. he was a prominent contender for the Heisman in 2017. He led USC that year to a 10-1 record and won the Pac-12 championship and the Rose Bowl. 67.2% completion, 3,086 passing yards, 31 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. In JJ's last year at U of M, he had 2,991 yards, 22 TDs to 4 interceptions. I mean, good TD to interception rate. He also had 202 rushing yards and 3 TDs on the ground. But here's what I'll say: the passes that he passed, I mean, the throws that he made, he wasn't throwing big deep balls, right? These were a lot of them were short, intermediate routes. He was not getting that ball downfield. The receivers were getting a bunch of yak. Blake Corum catching the ball out of the backfield. A lot of screen game stuff, a lot of dink and dunk stuff. Now he's going to be asked to produce. And I'm not saying that he's not going to make some throws. I'm not saying that he's not going to, have some decent games. But there's no comparison, in my opinion, to what Sam Darnold did last year to what JJ is going to be able to do this year. Continue on with your statement, then I'll get into the second half of this video.
Wow, Mike P says, is JJ the next Johnny Manziel?
Ooh, I don't know about the substance problems, but
but I just mean hyped up and, crash and burn. Yeah, it could be. I hope it's not. I mean, I really do. I'm rooting for the kid. He's a Michigan kid. I'm a Michigan fan. But like Will always says, you have to separate Saturdays and Sundays. You can't put it together. That'd be like if my kid went to college and he got drafted by the Green Bay Packers, I would have to disown my son. I couldn't do it. That's just my morals. I would have to do it. I could not root for him. I'd be like, I wish you all the luck in the world, but I can't root for you on Sundays.
Well, to my point and your point too, that, you have to be able to separate Saturdays and Sundays. Here's why. I'm going to look this up real quick, but let's take a look at, just briefly, let me throw a couple of names out of quarterbacks that, absolutely flopped, but were amazing in college. How about Ryan Leaf?
Yeah.
How about Matt Leinart? How about Jamarcus Russell? Johnny Manziel. Who else? Who else can I think of here? Let's see if I can pull some up. Some of these guys I don't even remember. Cade McNown. Tim Couch. Who else? Joey Harrington. Yeah, that was a collection of issues. Joey was Joey, but David Carr, So Vince Young. There's plenty. That's why we separate Saturdays and Sundays, because there's plenty of times where you have an amazing college career and you make it to the NFL and it doesn't translate because either the offensive scheme that you are running doesn't translate to the NFL, or, you're just made to look good. You had a winning franchise, and maybe back then we didn't have all the analytics and the stats and all the supporting documentation to really dig deep at how good this quarterback can translate his game. So, my answer, simply to this question is it too much pressure? McCarthy is going to face some major growing pains. Absolutely. He's going to have to adjust to the NFL. The speed is different. And I'm sure he's starting to realize that now, but this has been OTAs, no rush in his face, no pads, no hitting. Wait till that happens, and then let's take a second look at this. I think the Vikings, they need to be prepared for potential setbacks, right? I don't think they've done enough to be prepared for that. They got rid of Daniel Jones too, which was a huge mistake. But let me throw this out to you. The Vikings tried to keep Sam Darnold. What does that say? Yeah. What does that say? I think it says enough. Here's another thing I'll throw out. Caleb Williams last year was touted as having the best opportunity for a rookie quarterback ever going to the Bears. How did they finish? Was it 4-13?
5 wins.
5. Okay, 5-12. I'm just saying, the proof is out there, right?
That was supposed to be the most set up team for any rookie ever.
Right.
The most loaded, ready to go team ever.
And so is
And
the
they-
Vikings in this case.
Yeah.
Is the most loaded team ever for a rookie quarterback.
I'll say this. So you give Caleb Williams 3 years in a system, in one system, not two different ones. So 3 years from now, Caleb Williams is probably going to be pretty good. 3 years from now, JJ McCarthy is probably going to be pretty good. Maybe those two quarterbacks take over the NFC North, but not for another 3 years. You know, I think in their third year in their systems, that's when they're going to start to mature. That's when they're going to start to grow. They get into that fourth year, they're going to be fantastic if they can stay healthy and stay in the same system with the same coaches, same coordinators. That's the hard part, is being on a team where you're like Matt Stafford. How many coordinators did Matt Stafford have in his 10 years in Detroit? 10? Learning a different system every single year and having to adapt. And that just shows you how good Matt Stafford really was. He never had the team around him. He was always putting the team on his shoulders. And nobody realized it because the rest of the team was so bad.
Absolutely. Hey, let me jump into this next part of the video. If you can just double check, please, your PC settings. Let's make sure the volume is at 80. I would wind your gain back another 10.
It's at 65.
It's your gain is at 65.
Yep.
Gain should be at
No. The PC's at 65.
No, your gain on your mic through the Rodecaster should be about 35 or 40.
Yeah.
That I think is what's really high, because I've had this problem before, and it's always the gain. And then the PC, and then so it could be too low on the PC side, which could make it pop and click, or it can be too high on the gain side. It's just popping and clicking really bad.
How about this now? Is it still doing it?
We'll when we do our next segment, we'll double check. Let me bring this rest of this video back in just a couple more minutes, and then we're gonna wrap up this topic here on JJ McCarthy. Is it going to be too much pressure for him? And are the Vikings set to win a Super Bowl in 2025? Are they going to win the North? I'm having trouble with this one. I really am. Passing yardage for Sam last year, 4,300 yards, or 4,319, 35 TDs to 12 interceptions in 17 games. But then we saw the Sam of old in week 18, where the Lions actually got after him and shut him down, right? That was just good defensive play. I don't think that was so much Sam just breaking down completely. I think that he got rattled and he couldn't get the ball out. A lot of fans want to say the Lions didn't have a pass rush. Go back and watch week 18 from last year. What is JJ McCarthy going to be able to do when he's coming into the same situation, does not have the arm that Sam Darnold has? I'll get back to my notes here. Is he going to be able to have as good of a season or better or even anything close? I think if he comes into this season and doesn't produce anything close to Sam Darnold, you have your answer. Sam Darnold was able to do what Sam Darnold does or did last year simply because he was propped up by a really good offense and a defense able to give him the ball back. McCarthy has the same opportunity. So if he can't get it done in year one, but Sam Darnold can, I think that gives you the answer. Experience is everything in the NFL, and it always will be. I know that you say McCarthy won't be a top 10. I don't even think he'll be a top 15 in his first year. And I know that's kind of crazy to think where the Vikings were last year, but we're talking a totally different quarterback, and he's going to have to learn quickly in the NFL. This is his first year. Rookies usually don't do good. So what is your final take here on the Super Bowl window for the Vikings, which I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's a huge reach.
Yeah, I as well. I don't think they're in any kind of window. I think it's going to take a few years before JJ McCarthy is up to speed. He needs a couple years to cook. He needs a couple years in the system to learn everything. I just don't think he's going to come in year one and blow up the league. Now, I got a question for everybody. Do you think JJ McCarthy is going to be more like Tim Tebow, or do you think he is going to be more like Jaden Daniels? Which side of the coin does the chat think on that one? So do you think JJ McCarthy is more like Tim Tebow, or do you think he's more like Jaden Daniels in year one?
Man, I don't even think he's as good as Tim Tebow.
Yeah,
like Tim Tebow could run the football. I don't think JJ is going to be able to run the football a whole lot. I don't believe in his size. I think that JJ is a little bit too small.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're still popping and crackling, so we'll have to figure that out.
Really?
Yeah, maybe tonight. Maybe tonight.
There's no tonight. I'm
No, I'm saying maybe tonight if we can jump on for 5 minutes to try to get it fixed, or later on today.
I'm gone. So I'm trying to tell you, after 10 a.m., I'm gone until it'd be Wednesday, because I got the shop all day and then my tour tonight.
Well, then when you get back, we'll have to make sure we get in early and try to get it figured out.
That I can do.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's hard to listen to. All right. So Green Bay Packers, Jaire Alexander. We spoke about that one. Aaron Rodgers incentives are unrealistic. So that one is what I want to talk about next. Walk us through this topic here and why his contract has some unrealistic expectations.
Well, Rodgers signed a 1-year, $13.65 million deal over the weekend with the Steelers. And if Rodgers cashes in on the full $5.85 million in incentives package, it will have been an incredible deal. Okay, so to get there, to get $5.85 million, the Steelers have to win the Super Bowl. And then to be eligible for any of the payments, Rodgers must participate in 70% of the offensive snaps in the regular season. And that's the threshold. If the threshold is satisfied, the Steelers will give him $500,000 if they make the playoffs. And then if they can earn a first round bye, he gets another $600,000. If they win the divisional round and Rodgers takes at least half of the snaps, he gets $750,000. If they win the AFC Championship and Rodgers takes at least half the snaps, he gets $1 million. If they win the Super Bowl and Rodgers takes at least half the snaps, he gets $1.5 million. And then if Rodgers wins the regular season MVP award, he gets $1.5 million. More than half of the incentives, $3 million, are tied to winning the Super Bowl and Rodgers becoming the league MVP. That seems super unlikely, just to put it mildly. And, you know, if he hits all of his incentives, his contract balloons to $19.5 million. And that would be probably the best veteran quarterback contract ever signed by a team if he hits all those escalators.
So I'm trying to make sense of this here. So if they win a Super Bowl and Aaron Rodgers takes at least half of the snaps, he gets $1.5 million. If Rodgers wins the regular season MVP, come on now, he gets $1.5 million. If they win the divisional round and Rodgers takes at least half the snaps, he gets $750K. If they earn a first round bye, or if they win in the wild card round, he gets an extra $600K if he takes half the snaps. So what it sounds like to me is they are more concerned that he's not going to be able to play an entire season, even half a season. I don't know. I mean, unless he suffers an injury, then I just don't see how he wouldn't take half the snaps. Okay, so your gains at 35, PC's at 80.
Mm-hmm.
Then check your sliders. Are they on Unity?
Yep.
The midline?
Yes.
Then there should be no issues, which could be an internet issue then. You just have to check your internet later.
Yeah.
Okay, so St. Brown. Now, this is the next thing. So, let me just finish Aaron Rodgers. As far as Aaron Rodgers go, look, I think it's a joke. I think it's a giant joke that he's even playing this season. He's held out. He held out the Steelers kind of hostage-like, and now joins last minute. And now the Steelers put all of these, incentives into his contract, making it seem like he can reach these things. He's not going to reach these things. The Steelers, I'm going to put this out. This is my hot take of the day. For the first time in Mike Tomlin's career, they will not make the playoffs. They will not have a 500 win record. For the first, or 500 plus, because it's 17 games now. He will not make the playoffs. He will not have a plus 500 win record in his first year ever. And if I can bet that somewhere, even though I'm not a big bettor, I'll bet it.
You can. Yeah, DraftKings.
There you go, DraftKings. Brent says he wants Aaron to make it to the Super Bowl one more time and lose to the Lions. Well, I love Bus. Packers tears are the sweetest. Well, okay. I mean, if there's an NFL narrative here, which I don't think anymore. I don't think the NFL backs Rodgers anymore. Not as much as I think that they used to when he was in Packer land. So it is what it is. Yeah, and as far as this YouTube copyright stuff, like what I don't understand, it's live. It's because I'm not doing a video. If I were to record that into a video, it'd be fine. More than likely, because I see people use that stuff all the time. But because it's live, they causes a problem. But see, where YouTube has a problem is they're not live on TV, what's considered TV. And if it's never been live before, then it is what it is. Now, I don't remember where they record that. I don't know if it's a news station or if it's just YouTube. But I'll have to dig into that. That's why I don't use their stuff very often. So let's dig into this one. How many of you guys saw this thing about St. Brown? Where he's talking about how he kisses his family on the lips. And I got into an argument with a couple of people on social media over this. I mean, they were making some outlandish comments and I don't know, just some things that I didn't obviously agree with. But this is something to me that, and you're gonna have to forgive my usage of words here, but whether it's ethnicities or just family dynamics, I feel like some groups of people or some ethnicities, they do kiss their family on the lips. I have a ton of Italian friends and Sicilian friends. I have to make sure I delineate separate what that means. They always kiss each other on the lips, right? Who's I don't even know what ethnicity it is that they kiss each other on both sides. I mean, I know that's an Italian thing too, but they whether it's on the cheek or on the lips, it's like something that it's not taboo, right? And I think that that's the thing here that we have to understand. Is this a German thing, a German side of St. Brown? Probably, and I think that that's what we have to understand here. Now, the immediate numbers that I pulled from this, I'm going to tell you in just a minute, just how many people, how many ethnicities actually do kiss each other on the lips. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything weird about this. I don't think there's anything weird about it. I really don't. I think that this is just what their family does. And it's who cares? I mean, that's just what they do. So let me bring in this video. This is the best video that I could find. I really couldn't find a better one. So let me bring this one in. Let's listen to what they say, and we'll be right back. Take a look at the screen. Oh, I screwed it up. Let me fix it real quick. I'm not prepared today, if you can't tell. Internet issues, man. They always ruin stuff over here. All right, here we go.
Promise not to kick my ass for asking this?
Yeah.
I got one last question. Might get my ass kicked. So can you promise not to kick my ass for asking this?
Go ahead.
Was that a yes?
No promise, but go ahead.
Okay.
That was not a yes.
I might get my ass kicked. We had Von Miller on the show. We just talked to him. Dog. Absolute dog.
Yeah.
He told us that he kissed his dad on the lips.
When, still?
Yeah. Still. Do you kiss your dad on the lips?
No, I kissed my dad on the lips growing up until I would say, till I got to high school.
Mm-hmm.
But then in high school, I think a few times I kissed him on the lips, like when I graduated, I think when I committed. So a lot of people think it's weird. I kissed my mom on the lips too. I kissed my brothers on the lips when I was growing up. My dad made us do it, so we'd get in fights. And then after the fight was over, he would make us kiss each other on the lips. That's a good way to diffuse it.
You can't stay mad at somebody after you kiss them on the lips.
That's awesome.
I do that in fights sometimes. Just kiss them on the lips.
Now you kiss.
That was going to be my plan if you tried to beat my ass. I'm just going to kiss you.
But now my dad made us do it, so I think it's not a thing, I think, in America really, but
yeah.
I think Germany, it's kind of normal.
Yeah.
So it was normal
There's
for me
your
growing
answer.
up.
That'd be awesome if after you played the Bears, you met in, the middle of the field, kiss on
On the
lips.
50-yard line?
We went to battle.
Okay. So, on this whole topic here, first I want to point out this was from August 11, 2023. And this surfaced yesterday from where I saw it was on Dove Kleiman's Twitter account. And he totally butchered intentionally for clickbait purposes. This is why I can't stand clickbaiters. Totally butchered what was really going on. And you heard the answer, right? It's a German thing. At least for them, it was a German thing. But here's my answer. Around half of the cultures, that's probably a better word to use, cultures, kiss each other intimately. I don't know if intimately is a great word, but on the lips. Is it a big deal? Now, I can't say that I ever did. That's just not part of our culture. We didn't do that. But Central America, South America, Africa are particular regions where there's not much of a kissing culture at all. But only 4 of the 17 cultures researched in South America, 4 of 27 in Africa, and 0 of 10 in Central America lock lips romantically. That's something totally different. But over half of the cultures found throughout the world, this is part of their family dynamic. And the other thing that I want to point out is he said, when did it stop, right? Before high school, and then even after high school, there might have only been a couple of times, and that was when he committed and when he graduated. So this is a big non-subject, and I don't know why it's getting so much airplay. I was even hesitant to talk about it, but I don't want to see St. Brown get drug into the mud and, and this type of stuff resurfacing from a couple of years ago. This is why you have to be very, very careful about what you put on the internet. And look, this is a non-issue for me. It's their culture. It's the way they do things. Who cares, right? I mean, the guy's one of the best wide receivers in the league. I don't care if you kiss a donkey on his butt. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Do what you wanted. That'd be a little weird, but you know what I'm saying. Eric, any thoughts on this?
Yeah. So how is this a football issue whatsoever? Non-issue. Try having Finnish grandparents and parents. Much different culture than what most Americans are used to.
Exactly. Just because you're not used to something doesn't mean it doesn't exist in other cultures, right?
Yes. Listen, my grandma made me eat cow tongue, eyeballs, all the weirdest stuff in the world. And yeah, just imagine a big old cow tongue with potatoes and carrots cooking in your oven.
Now, I like cow tongue, right? It's the way Mexicans make it in tacos. I think it's called barbacoa. Yeah, it's really good. But yeah, I get it, right? But to other people, to your point, it wouldn't be normal.
Yeah, and we eat pasties up here and all this other stuff, rutabaga and stuff that's so foreign to people that come up here. And kissing on the lips that's just another thing.
Now pasties, I got to be honest, they're the most bland thing in the world, and it's maybe because I haven't had a good one yet. but I was recommended to go to this gas station that was up in Marquette, and they supposedly had the best ones, and they were all homemade, and I was watching them making them when I was in there, and I'm like, one bite, it was so dry, and it was like carrots and onions and celery and some meat and some little bit of sauce on the inside. I'm like, this thing needs like a boatload of gravy, and then I could eat it.
You put gravy on them.
Yeah, gravy I could do, but they're eating them like sandwiches. Yeah. What's the history on pasties? I think when I researched,
so the miners, the copper miners, what they would do, their wives had leftover meat and potatoes and stuff from the dinner the day before, and they would take pie crust and they would roll it up and they would cook it, and then to reheat it, they used their lamps. So their headlamps had a little flame in them, and they would set it on top of their headlamp for a couple of minutes, warm up their food, and then they would have something they could just break apart and eat with their hands. They didn't need any utensils to bring it down in the mine. You just wrap it in tinfoil, put it on your hard hat, and off you go. So that was where that meal came from.
Makes sense. But you know what? That's their culture thing. And you know, Brent made a really good comment here, and I'm going to highlight it, and then we'll step off with this one. He says, if someone thinks that this is an issue, they suck as a human. Cultural differences should not be discriminated against. 1000%. I couldn't agree more. It's exactly why I wanted to highlight this today, is because people can do whatever they want, right? If it's their culture, it's their culture. And there's no reason to be mad about it, indifferent about it, make fun of it. It is what it is. Everyone does quirky things if you want to view it as quirky. I just think it's just part of the way they were raised. It's just what they do, and let it be. All right, next subject is going to get some people upset. It's going to ruffle some feathers. Eric, what is going on with Trey Hendrickson?
Well, Trey Hendrickson. The dream might be dead after a surprise veteran was released yesterday from the Cincinnati Bengals. So the Cincinnati Bengals have recently cut ties with linebacker Jermaine Pratt, per Tom Pelissero, and many feel it's pointed and related to the Hendrickson deal with the Cincinnati Bengals. So Pratt being cut by the team post June 1st means that this opens up $5.8 million in cap space on the books for this year, which could very likely mean adding a new deal for Trey Hendrickson that is expected to be close to or on par with what Cleveland Browns edge Myles Garrett received this past offseason, which is about $40 million per season.
So they released Jermaine Pratt, which was, gosh, if I remember last year, he was, he was like a tackle king.
Yeah, he's a stud linebacker.
Stud. I mean, maybe not so great at coverage, but his run game, run block, run stuffing was really good. He's tackling all over the place. He's kind of like the Cunningham that we have now on the Lions. I'm wondering, and maybe I'll do a little video about this later, is Jermaine Pratt a good fit for the Lions situation right now? I would say if the Lions go out and get Jermaine Pratt, you can say goodbye to Alex, because that just it'd be too many. There'd just be too many good football players. Here's what I'll say: Jermaine Pratt was really good a few seasons ago. The fact that let me look it up real quick. 143 tackles last season combined. 143. 63 of them, I guess, were assisted. That's a ton.
Yeah.
107 solo. PFF is recording 30 assisted, which would be 137. That's only 6 off from what a quick search here came back at 143. That's a ton of tackles. What were you going to say?
Yeah, so I've been gone for a while. Can you refresh me on what the Alex Anzalone standoff? I mean, this is the last year of his contract, correct?
Yeah, so he's in his final year of a 3-year deal that he signed with the Lions. And according to some reports, now there's been some issues. I don't know if you saw this with Dan Campbell the other day in the media availability, but they're saying that his standoff right now are staying out of OTAs, which, by the way, he's never gone to OTAs that are voluntary. Then they said, well, he wasn't wearing Lions gear in a workout video. Well, he's never worn Lions gear in his workout videos. And so everyone, your normal Detroit media, not the good ones like Justin Rodgers, but your normal guys that are just stirring the pot, starting shit constantly, clickbaiting as they normally do, bring this stuff to light. They also said that Frank Ragnow's retirement, or the issue of Frank Ragnow not being in camp or, whatever, is because of a contract issue. And then Dan Campbell comes to the podium last week and scathes the guys in the room and says, this is just disrespectful. It was never about money with Frank Ragnow. This is about his body. It's about his health. It's about his future, with his family. And so this is the same thing, man. It's like, okay, if Alex wants more money, which we think this one has legs, right? There's credibility to this. Did he deserve some more money? He's been a pillar for the community. He's been a pillar for this team. He's been a captain. He's been a big part. I mean, you saw last year when Alex was out, what happened. And I think that was more so just missing so many guys. I mean, the room was so depleted with so many defensive players. But he wants a little bit more money. So I just pulled up Pratt's PFF. Back in 2022 was arguably his best season. A 90.1 coverage grade. 90.1. Overall grade 80.6. So back then, he was probably one of, if not the best in the league. The year before was terrible. Now, I don't have enough time to go through all these. But if he is 2022's linebacker, there could be interest by the Lions. Last season was an indifferent season. He had a bunch of tackles. His coverage grade was terrible. His run defense grade was good. Pass rush grade was terrible. He doesn't get a lot of sacks. He doesn't go after the quarterback a whole lot. And his overall grade was a 60.6. So maybe they see a decline in Pratt and they don't see a way up. I don't know. But now that I've kind of given you the cliff notes on Alex and the release of Pratt, talking about Trey Hendrickson, that the dream could be over. Look, the dream's been over. It's just they want to live this Groundhog Day nightmare of, what $35 million edge rusher are we getting today? Come on, people. Let's let it be. What are your final thoughts on that?
You and I, from the very beginning of this whole Trey Hendrickson drama started, we've both said it's never going to happen.
Yep. With all of them. It wasn't just Trey. With all of them. From the very beginning that the season ended, we both said from the very beginning, it's not going to happen, people. There's not going to be a top-tier edge rusher brought into this team from outside the team or in the draft. Now, we don't know what our 6th-round pick is just yet. We have no idea. Yep. But the point was they were not going to significantly invest off-season, free agency. I expect them to do roster roulette with Aiden. I expect them to backfill when they give Aiden his contract. If it is this year, that means his contract won't start for 2 seasons. So then you could even push the can out a little bit further as to when they need to grab another first-round draft pick or someone they believe is going to be just as good as Aiden. They can have a very low cap rate on. But go ahead. You were going to say something.
I don't remember. But listen, I was gone when this whole Frank Ragnow thing happened.
Yeah.
And the first thing I saw when I got up in the air on the airplane, I got signal, right? And the first thing I saw, the very first thing on the very top, Frank Ragnow retires. And my heart just sank, and I don't know what this means for cap space for the Lions. It must give them a little bit of something. I know the Lions will still control him for another year. If he does decide to unretire, they'll still own his rights. And I don't think he would go anywhere else. I don't think he wants to go anywhere else. But maybe he takes a year off and comes back. Maybe he gets to the playoffs and is like, you know what, guys? Hey, I can help.
You're talking about Pratt.
No, I was talking about Frank Ragnow.
Oh, but, yeah. No, I wouldn't be surprised that, he comes back and or stays ready as much as he needs to stay ready just in case, the Lions go through the first part of this season and something happens. Maybe somebody goes down, hopefully not. And then, he comes back to help. Having Frank on the sideline, I think, is going to be imperative for the Lions young guys. It's now really it's now Penei Sewell's room. I mean, it kind of has been, but I think Frank has really been the leader of that room. And look, it's going to be indifferent this year, and I think it's going to be tough. I hope they weigh this retirement of Frank and wear it like a badge of honor to do it for Frank. Like,
yeah,
you know, my thought on this season is against all odds, right? But now it's like, man, do it for Frank. Just do it for Frank.
Yeah.
And maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't, but I'd love to see him on the sideline. Maybe takes over for Hank Fraley at some point, because we're probably going to lose Hank, next year. Yeah. You can almost guarantee it. All right, We got 4 minutes before you got to bounce. What are the 3 veterans whose roles might be pushed by the rookies in 25?
All right, let me get over there. So this little thing I found talks about 3 Lions veterans whose roles just might be pushed by rookies in 2025. So I want to get kind of your guys' take on this. Could Tim Patrick lose snaps to rookie Isaac Tesla in 2025? Tim Patrick was a diamond in the rough for the Lions in 2024. The Detroit Lions scooped Patrick up for basically nothing, and they were absolutely thrilled when he played the wide receiver 3 role. Patrick logged 33 receptions for 394 yards and 3 touchdowns in 16 games. He even played well enough to earn another 1-year contract for the Detroit Lions. Patrick does everything the Lions want him to do from the number 3 wide receiver. He gets open. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's a big body, and he's that guy that, if Goff really wants to throw it up, he can. But then this year, the Lions drafted Isaac Tesla, kind of the same body style, in the 3rd round of the 2025 draft. And, Tesla's selection was kind of controversial with a lot of people because of the high price. The Lions had to trade up with him and give up the 3rd round picks. But putting that controversy aside, the Lions seem to be telling us that Tesla has a bright future in Detroit, and the kid catches everything. And Brad Holmes did call Tesla his favorite wide receiver in this year's draft class. Tesla is an excellent run defender and uses his combination of speed and size to bully smaller defensive backs. He's relatively inexperienced with only 2 seasons playing in the SEC, but is dripping with potential. So what do you think? Do you think that Isaac Tesla is going to push into Tim Patrick's playing time this year?
Jury's out. Now, we know that Tesla did not do a whole lot in OTAs, and I don't care. And I get sick of kind of reading the rhetoric that you wasted all this cap space on a guy that didn't even practice in OTAs. There's a reason for it. Okay, whatever that reason is will come out later. There's some speculation that he's nursing something injury-wise. It is what it is. I think that Tesla will need a little bit of time to kind of marinate and get to where he needs to get. I think the Lions are going to keep one extra receiver. So will he push for playing time, as to your question? Maybe. But maybe what we finally have is 2 guys, with some height and some speed and some opportunity that we're going to want to keep around throughout this season. It'll be great to see Isaac Tesla and Patrick both out there at the same time with Jameson Williams. I think that's going to be a lineup that I want to see. This next guy in this article, did you want to say something on that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, and when's the last time you can remember seeing a 4 receiver set out of the Detroit Lions?
With some height. I mean, we've seen it last year, but with some actual height, though, like that. Yeah. That's the thing is having some guys that are big and can go up and get the football. That's what we haven't seen.
That's a wrinkle I think that might just work pretty well for the Detroit Lions.
I do see. Now, this next one is really interesting because it's about Ahmed Hassanin. And they're saying that this is going to, he will put Marcus Davenport and other Lions edge rushers to the test. I think that probably should have been push. But The article kind of goes on to say that the Lions were linked, with edge rushers during the entire pre-draft process this spring. Detroit ended up taking, Ahmed Hassanin in the 6th round, and they're stating that, essentially that he's raw. He's a prospect. He played organized football for less time than some Lions players have been in the NFL. Okay, that's great. I understand it. But that also speaks to how good he is relative compared to the other guys that have played football a lot longer. That means his ceiling is a lot higher. His floor might be a little lower to start, but we don't know that yet. It's all speculation. So, yeah, I think absolutely Ahmed is going to push. And I think it's going to be a really good kind of give and take, if you will, to see some of the guys that are in the room now and watch him be able to push these guys for PT. I know, again, you've been gone for a little bit, but what are your thoughts on Ahmed Hassanin being able to make a difference in this room?
I love it. And I think the fact that he hasn't played a lot of football and he's going to be raw, he's going to be fresh. I think that this was the developmental player that we pulled from this year's draft. So similar to Manu or some of the other guys that we've taken. And I think this guy really has a chance to succeed. And does he have a chance to push Marcus Davenport for that starting role? Of course he does. Of course he does. Otherwise, the Lions wouldn't have brought him in. And I think that Marcus Davenport's going to be a great teacher. I think Hutch is going to be a great mentor. And he's going to learn a little bit from all of them. But as far as I'm concerned, I think Hassanin in the first half of the season, it may be Davenport. But if Davenport gets hurt, or if Hassanin really starts catching on, I surely believe in the second half of the season, he will push Davenport for the starting role.
Look, I hope that Davenport is the guy we expect him to be, and then the guy that he used to be. We need that. This is not a slight at Ahmed, but we need Davenport to be that guy because he's been in the league. He's a former first-round pick. But if Hassanin can come through and push Davenport, that's a good thing. That means that he's able to perform at the level that some of these other guys are at, and I think that is going to be great for his development, and then also see how far he can push these guys. All right, who's the third guy?
All right, the third one, Tyleik Williams could steal DJ Reader's job after Aleem McNeil returns. Now, that's kind of interesting. The Lions shocked the NFL when they selected defensive tackle Tyleik Williams in the first round of the 2025 draft. I didn't think it was that big of a shock.
Well, I did.
Yeah. The selection may have initially been unpopular. I don't know who it's unpopular to, but it's not unpopular to me.
Everybody that wanted a defensive end is who it's unpopular with.
Yeah. So it's easy to understand why the Lions prioritized adding a defensive tackle instead of an edge rusher. So Aleem McNeil is recovering from a torn ACL. He is going to be out probably until mid-November, late November, somewhere around there. So he's going to miss a bunch of games. And he suffered that back in the 2024 season. And even this is saying he's not expected to be back until after the week 8 bye. Okay. But as a result, the Lions will need someone like Williams to start in relief of McNeil for at least half the season. Perfect. Correct. Okay. And then thankfully, the Lions also have veteran DJ Reader, who they can lean on in McNeil's absence. However, once McNeil does return, Reader's role could be significantly reduced. Reader is in the final year of his 2-year contract in Detroit, and it stands to reason that the Lions are thinking about life after Reader. That's exactly why they drafted Tyleik in the first round. They do need a replacement for Reader, and they do need someone to fill in until Aleem McNeil is back. Now, the thing with DJ Reader, when he came in last year, he was still getting over that, torn quad injury that he had.
Second time, So he's a much different football player this year.
Yes. So I'm thinking that he's going to have another offseason of healing. He's going to be in his second year in this defense because the defense isn't changing. It's going to be the same calls, same everything.
To a degree, it's going to remain the same. Yeah.
for the most part, they're running the same concepts. And I think DJ Reader is going to be better this year. And I think that Aleem McNeil may sit on the bench longer than most people are anticipating. He may be in a more reserve backup role for the rest of the season when he does come back. It just depends on how healthy he is when he comes back and how much he's a big dude, almost 300 pounds, putting all that pressure on that reconstructed knee. The big guys, they take longer. You know, a wide receiver weighs $180, $190. They're going to have an easier time. Even though they're running faster, they're not pushing against another lineman constantly on every single play. So I could even see where Aleem comes back to a kind of a backup rotational role for the rest of the season. You know, and maybe doesn't start until we get into the playoffs, because he's going to have to get back into game shape and get back into playing games again.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think to kind of finish off our last segment of the day, we're in a good position to everything that we've thought about Reader to be for the Detroit Lions last year was, you know, a guy that we could hope would come in and provide at least someone that could eat up double teams, if that makes sense. And he did that. And matter of fact, he had his best season last year with sacks. He had 3, which I know that's not a ton. That's not what a lot of fans seem to think about as, you know, the more sacks, the better. It's just not factual. He did a great job at doing what he needed to do last year, coming off of a major injury. It's going to be a little bit different for Aleem, but if you could pair the two from coming back from major injuries, if Aleem does get back by the Commanders game, which is the first week or so of November, then I mean, that would be a great game to come back to. However, I think they'd probably hold him out of that game as much as they can, or maybe get him in on a few snaps just to kind of get his feet wet, so to speak. The Lions are in a great position depth-wise. I mean, our team is so deep on the defensive line and on the defensive end. I have a feeling there's going to be those handshake deals again this year. We're going to be able to put some guys onto the vet squad. Some guys are going to come back after they're cut. And we're going to enter this season just ready to rock and roll. I've listened to a few outlets talking about the Lions. And look, they're not shy by saying that the Lions are going to win it all. That the Lions are going to repeat 14-plus wins again this year. And not to get scared by the first place schedule, because, and we're going to dive into this maybe in the next week or so, how much has changed. And I'll finish that when we talk about it. But how much has changed? I'm not going to give it away because, you know, some people will steal the content. So anyway, final 30 to you. It's been a good day having you back in the saddle. It looks like Carol Besh is interested in YOOPERLITES. Maybe Carol, when all of you guys get into Michigan, maybe we can figure out a way to get you up north with Eric and do a night tour if there's still time.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. You know, get them up in August or September or something. No bugs. Be gorgeous for them. You guys will have an absolute blast.
It's a fun time. I can't wait to do it.
Yeah, I can take up to 5 people at a time. So
unless we rent a couple of UTVs or something.
Yeah, we could also do that. You know, get some more people out there, have a blast.
You don't want me driving. I'm just kidding. So final 30, man, back in the saddle. What's your take being back and covering some football stuff?
Yeah. So number 1, it's a bummer about Frank Ragnow. Wish he was staying. Number 2, I wish this Alex Anzalone thing would clean itself up. Maybe it's something. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe he just skips OTAs and there's no problem whatsoever. I don't know. I'm not Dan Campbell, so I don't know this stuff. Dan Campbell and Brad, they know what's going on. We don't. We're in the dark. Yeah, and I for sure will say JJ McCarthy will not be a top 10 quarterback this year. And I think the Lions are going to be okay. I really do. I don't think it's all doom and gloom with our Lions this year. Like I said before, I predicted 13-4. I'm sticking by that. I still think they're going to do it. And when is the rest of my schedule going to come out? I'm probably going to do it today or tomorrow. Maureen, I'm trying to figure out all the dates because I have to look and make sure that There's nothing Lions related conflicting with my schedule because I already have the Hall of Fame game I can't go to because I 6 months ago had already scheduled something for the end of July thinking, oh, training camp doesn't start till the first week of August. There's not going to be a preseason game till the first week of August. And of course, we get one in July. So I won't make it to the Hall of Fame game.
Speaking of Hall of Fame game, if you haven't gone to look at tickets already, they are triple the price of what they were last season already.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
That's the Lions for you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, for me, man, I could echo the same thing that, it's going to be tough even considering the fact that we're going through. I mean, when we get to training camp, Frank Ragnow's not going to be there on the field. Who knows if he's going to be there at all and in what capacity that he could be or couldn't be. Quit thinking that the Lions are going to bring somebody in at defensive end. It's either Z or nobody. That's it. Yep. And that's what I said from the very beginning. He's not going anywhere. He's going to sit at home until there's an opportunity with the Lions. We don't want an opportunity only because that means someone probably got injured. But let the Lions, shake out the tree, so to speak, get to the 53 cuts and let's see who's available. As far as Frank Ragnow's, replacement goes, it could be Tate Ratledge. Did you have an opportunity to see the sighting of the Motor City Mullet?
No, I did not.
Oh, you didn't see the Motor City Mullet?
For 10 days, I had no internet, no cell phone service. I couldn't even text. Nothing.
Right, do me one favor. Stay on for another 60 seconds.
Okay.
Just talk about something. Let me load up a video real quick. Just talk about anything you want. I'll be right back.
All right. Yeah. As far as Za'Darius Smith goes, I think that just like Will said, it's going to be more closer to the season or during the season. I think he's kind of our insurance policy this year against someone getting hurt in training camp or getting hurt, period. And that's something that happens every single year. Someone gets hurt every single year at basically every position, whether it's in training camp, OTAs, off season, working out, and they trip on their dog, coming down the stairs. Lions players just, for some reason, like to get hurt. And last year we had, 16 defensive players on IR, 22 overall. So I think there's a spot for Z on this team. It's just the money's going to have to be right and the timing's going to have to be right. And I do see Za'Darius Smith playing in the Honolulu blue and silver this fall sometime. Maybe not the entire season, but a lot of it.
The standard's the standard, boys. Frank's going to be back on this team. I'll guarantee it. I had a conversation with him last night, and he said he can't wait to join this Detroit Lions as an offensive coach in the future. And talking to Za'Darius Smith, yep, we'll just see what happens. Well, it is what it is, and that's it for today. This is the Motor City Mullet.
The Sonic Mullet.
All right, y'all. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning. Eric, good to have you back, man.
It's big pork chops.
There we go. I'll have to get some blue ones. All right, we'll see y'all later. Take care. Bye-bye. Go One Pride. Go Detroit Lions. We'll see you in the next one.